I was sitting in the living room of my home on an ordinary Sunday evening when I felt a faint sense of depression. My wife Isadora and I have been married for more than 10 years, and it seems that our original life of love and sweetness is quietly changing. Xander, why do you care less and less about my feelings all these years? Do you know how much I envy other husbands who are so attentive to their wives? Isadora questioned me in an agitated tone. I sighed helplessly. Come on. I'm busy too, and I have my own pressures. It's not easy for both of us. Can't we understand each other? Compassionate? Where's the need for sympathy? Where were you when I needed you most? Where were you when I was sick and hospitalized? Isadora's eyes instantly reddened. You were too busy socializing, too busy working overtime, too busy hanging out with your friends, but you never had time for me. I dropped my eyes glumly. What my wife said was true. It was true that I'd been neglecting her since I'd been promoted to the top of the company in order to maintain those hard-won contacts, but I'd never imagined that Isadora had built up so much resentment inside her. Do you think I want to be like this? The company has so many things waiting for me to deal with. How can I support my family if I don't work? Besides, I am doing this for the sake of our family. I said in my defense, but in my heart, I knew that these reasons were very weak. A family? Do you even know what a family is? Isadora sneered. When have you ever been in charge of the family? Have you ever been to your children's parent-teacher conferences? Do you remember their birthdays? I've been there for you on so many occasions, you know? I was dumbfounded. I really can't remember the last time I had a family dinner together. Every day, when I came home drunk from socializing, the kids were already asleep. Although my wife never complained, the disappointment and resentment she expressed in her words is so harsh to the ear when I think back on it now. I'm sorry, I'll make more time for you guys in the future, I said sheepishly. Vaguely, I feel that the couple between the increasingly indifferent feelings has been like a time bomb, buried in the surface of the life of love. At any time there is the possibility of explosion. Isadora did not answer, just look out the window. Eyes are lonely. At that moment, I seemed to catch a glimpse of the past when I fell in love with a bit of memory. Then I was how gentle and how considerate, but now. Isadora tears cannot stop sliding down, my heart like a knife. Why are you crying? Let's talk this over, huh? I took her by the shoulders and gently wiped the tears from her face. Forget it, you won't understand. Isadora pushed my hand away and got up to leave. I'm going to make dinner. Make yourself at home, she said, walking towards the kitchen without looking back. Looking at my wife's slightly stooped back, I fell heavily on the sofa, a long sigh. From when onwards, the topic between us is only quarrels and accusations. I feel unprecedented powerlessness and uncertainty. At that moment, my cell phone vibrated with a message from Yelena, a colleague from the company. Z, the dinner party is scheduled at the usual place. Don't forget. Do you want to have a drink later? I was staring at the screen, lost in thought. Yelena's ambiguous words upset me. Should I take this opportunity to have a drink with Yelena, or should I turn down the social gathering to appease my wife's broken heart? After much hesitation, I finally made a decision. I got up and walked toward the kitchen, not knowing whether reconciliation or a more heated argument awaited me ahead. I walked slowly into the kitchen and saw Isadora quietly washing rice. Her head was bowed and her long hair covered her face, so I couldn't see her expression. I won't be home for dinner. I spoke up. Another dinner party? Isadora asked without looking up. Go ahead. I won't stop you. I sighed and went forward to hold her hand. I know I've been neglecting you lately. You should be angry. But this is really important. It's related to the company's next big project. I have to go. Isadora slowly lifted her head, her gaze filled with helplessness and exhaustion. Whatever. I'm used to it anyway. I opened my mouth to say something soothing, but remained silent. I kissed her gently on the forehead and turned to leave. Before I left, I glanced back and saw Isadora still pawing rice mechanically, as if she were a lifeless statue. On the way to the appointed place, I was preoccupied with Yelena's text message, which was still lingering in my mind. The company's social gathering was already a bit special, attended by some high-level and important customers, Yelena invited me to have a drink alone. Is there an ulterior motive? I'm not unaware of the office gossip that Yelena's been pursuing me and using her work to create opportunities to be alone with me. But I've never given her the time of day, and since I'm a married man, I've never thought of anything else. But tonight, with my marriage on the brink of collapse, I was looking forward to Yelena's invitation. I hated myself for being weak and greedy, but I couldn't stop the evil thoughts that were stirring inside me. Xander, you're here, sit down. Yelena greeted me warmly as soon as I entered the box. She was wearing a low-cut evening gown and a lot of makeup, holding a glass of red wine towards me. I was a little uncomfortable to avoid her eager gaze and sat down on the side. The next meal, drink exchange. I used the strength of alcohol and customers to fight the spirit of conversation and laughter. Talk about the project, talk about cooperation, as if the wife's tears and the inner torment are temporarily put aside. Z, are you okay? You've had a little too much to drink. Yelena looked at me with concern as she sent the client away. We were the only ones left in the box, and an ambiguous atmosphere filled the room. It's okay. I can still drink. I raised my glass and drank the last sip of red wine. Yelena walks over to me and sits down, her long fingers nudging my chest. Tired day. Want to go to my place for a drink? I stared blankly at her colorful lipsticked lips and felt my heart race. Alcohol, exhaustion, and disappointment in my family were weakening my reason and restraint. Just then, the cell phone rang. It was Isadora. I stared at the screen, my mind reeling. Hey, what's up? I picked up the phone and tried to sound as normal as possible. Nothing, just wanted to ask when you'd be back. Isadora's tone was anxious. I looked at my wristwatch. It was already late. But Yelena was still looking at me with flirtatious eyes that stuck in my throat. May have to stay a little longer. You go to sleep first. After that, I hung up the phone in a hurry. Yelena flashes an impish smile and flirtatiously takes my arm. Come on, Z, let's go for a drink. I gulped, and my mind was reeling. Just this once. What's the point of indulging once? Isadora was already disappointed in me, and our marriage was dead in the water. Just at the moment when reason was about to collapse, Isadora's tearful face suddenly came to mind. All those years, from meeting, falling in love to marriage, to the birth of a child. A scene swept past. I was shaken, violently pushed Yelena away. I'm sorry, Yelena, I'm going home. I got up hastily and rushed out of the box without looking back. Behind me, Yelena's stunned eyes gazed at my back for a long time. At this moment, I suddenly realized that even the most beautiful temptation can't beat a simple promise. No amount of deep resentment can hide the traces of true love. Perhaps Isadora and I have just lost our way, and as long as we still harbor a glimmer of hope, we can find the courage to love each other again. I drove through the night, my heart filled with repentance and determination. I want to apologize to Isadora. I want to make up for her years of hard work and dedication. I want to repair this nearly broken home. Late at night, I drove home to find the lights on in the living room. Pushing open the door, Isadora was napping on the couch with the midnight news on the TV. The cold food was still on the table, so she must have been waiting for me to come back. Looking at his wife's tired, sleeping face, I feel a pang of remorse. These years, she quietly bare too much, but I am blind to, and even outside the hook 3-4, is really a bastard to the extreme. Well, you're back? Isadora looked at me sleepily, her voice a little raspy. Well, it's back. I have something to tell you. I sat down beside her and took her hand. Isadora seemed a little surprised, but waited patiently for me to speak. I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. I said incoherently, these years, I neglected your feelings too much, let you suffer so much. Just now on the social, Yelena, she asked me to go to her place. Before the words were finished, tears had already blurred his eyes. Guilt, fear, regret, all the emotions exploded at this moment. I hugged Isadora tightly and sobbed uncontrollably. Isadora was stunned, then her eyes reddened. She gently stroked my back, whispered, It's okay. You did not go? I know there are a lot of temptations out there. You can refuse. I'm very pleased. Not anymore. I won't let you be scared anymore. I kissed her forehead, the tip of her nose, and her lips over and over again, as if I wanted to make up for all the warmth I had owed her over the years. Isadora responded to my kisses with tears in the corners of her eyes. But, but, can you guarantee that women like Yelena will come along again? But, but, can you guarantee that women like Yelena will come along again? Can you really resist the temptation? My heart shook and I realized the uneasiness and doubt in my wife's heart. I took her face and looked into her eyes. I swear, I love only you in my life. No matter what temptations come my way, I will never waver. If I go back on my word, I'll be damned. Isadora broke down into a smile. Fool, say what not to die. I do not want to give up. With that, she kissed me on the lips, tears mingling. That night, we did it many times, each other physically and mentally, as if we were back in the heat of love. I was on top of her again and again, feeling her warmth and tolerance. At that moment, I secretly vowed to make up for my past mistakes with my future life, and to take care of this hard-won love with all my heart. Afterwards, I hugged Isadora, who was sleeping and could not sleep for a long time. My mind kept flashing back to the past years, how I had neglected my wife and family step by step, and how I had gone farther and farther down the wrong path. It was like a lifetime ago. I quietly looked out the window. The dawn is rising. Through the gauzy mist, I seem to see the true meaning of marriage. Too easy to love, too difficult to keep. The rest of your life is still long if you're not in a great mood. But if you're not in a great mood, you're in a great mood. I kissed Isadora's hair and murmured in my heart, "Honey, let's start over, okay?" After that night, I began working on myself, trying to repair my relationship with Isadora. I gradually cut back on socializing, came straight home from work, took my wife and kids on weekend trips, and tried to make up for my neglect. At first, Isadora was skeptical. She couldn't seem to believe that a man who was a heavy drinker and indifferent to his family could suddenly turn over a new leaf overnight. Whenever I suggested going to the movies or shopping, she hesitated. I say, "Will you give me a chance? I really want to make our marriage work." One day, I got up the courage to say it to her. Isadora was silent for a moment and sighed softly. "Zahn, it's not that I don't trust you. It's just that we've gone too far. This thing called feelings is worthless, but once broken, how can it be so easy to repair?" Her words pierced my heart like a sword. I realized that she had been disappointed in me and the marriage for so long that she couldn't regain her faith right away. But I couldn't just give up, or we really couldn't go back. "Give me a month, okay? Just 1 month. I'll prove it with my actions. If you still don't feel right, then I choked and couldn't go on. Isadora frowned tightly and looked at me with complicated eyes before finally nodding softly. In this way, I started the wife journey. I learned how to cook, and occasionally I could cook a decent meal. I took the initiative to share the household chores, mopping the floor and doing laundry. I tutored my children's homework, attended parent-teacher conferences, and became their strongest backing. Whenever Isadora needs me, I am always ready to help, no matter how hard it is. Gradually, Isadora's attitude began to soften. She would rave about my work, kiss me on the cheek after I did the laundry, and lean into my arms to talk to me about the kids. Though these gestures are insignificant, they are more than 1,000 pampering to me. I know that she is accepting the new me little by little, and our relationship is slowly recovering. The twist came one rainy night. I worked late that night, and Isadora was already asleep when I got home. I washed up gently and was about to lift the blanket when I realized that there was an envelope on my pillow. I opened it suspiciously, and there was a bank card lying quietly inside, and a line of beautiful handwriting. "I have saved a little private money. Here you are. Do whatever you want." My nose was sore. Tears blurred my eyes instantly. This woman would rather save money, but also for me to save a sum of money, so that I can freely dispose of. She is how to understand my needs, and how thoughtful. At this moment, I secretly vowed in my heart, this life must be good to her. Never let her suffer a trace of wrongdoing. I gently hugged the sleeping Isadora, feeling her temperature and breath. Outside the window, The rain gurgled, seemingly pouring out my guilt and gratitude. I murmured in her ear, "Honey, thank you. I love you." That night, we were once again skin to skin and soul to soul. I know, although the road ahead is bumpy, but as long as you go forward hand in hand, there is no gap that cannot be crossed. This marriage will eventually find its way back to the long-lost goodness in the long flow of water. When I woke up the next day and saw Isadora holding up the bank card with tears in her eyes, I immediately realized that she had forgiven me. The secret money was her investment of trust in the relationship, but also a chance for each other to start over. "I won't let you suffer anymore, I swear." I hugged my wife tightly, 2 lines of hot tears across the face. Life was back on track, but my troubles didn't stop there. The company was still under a lot of pressure, with projects coming in one after another. I had to work overtime a lot and attend various social functions in order to keep up my performance. By the time I got home, the kids were already asleep, and Isadora had left a lone light on, sleeping alone under the blanket. My heart ached as I looked at the bruises under my wife's eyes. I knew I had to make a choice and could not go on like this. However, give up the hard-earned career. Will not repeat the previous mistakes? Caught in a dilemma, I became more and more anxious. "Honey, I can understand your pressure." Late one night, Isadora took me by the shoulders. "You've put in so much effort. I can't bear to see you give up. Why don't we work together to find a way to combine work and family, okay?" I nodded my head in relief. With my wife's support, I was not afraid of any difficulties. The next day, I solemnly knocked on my boss's door and frankly expressed my concerns. Surprisingly, my boss didn't give me a hard time and understood my situation. "Xander, you are the backbone of the company and have given a lot over the years. As a leader, I have the responsibility to take care of my subordinates. Let's do it this way from now on. You cannot participate in non-essential overtime work and social functions, and work with efficiency first, not quantity. The company will fully cooperate with you. As long as your performance does not fall behind, everything is fine." I shook my boss's hand with excitement and gratitude. With the company's understanding and support, I was finally able to balance my career and my family, and I didn't have to struggle between the two. In the following days, I began to adjust my life a little bit. I learned to work efficiently and reduce unnecessary overtime. I rationalized the division of labor with my colleagues and changed some social functions into teleconferences. I even took the time to learn to cook and make some delicious meals for my wife and children. Coming home from work on time every day, doing homework with my children, and chatting with my wife have become my greatest expectations. Looking at Isadora's heartfelt smile and the children's innocent playfulness, my heart is full of fulfillment. It turns out that happiness is hidden in the trivial matters, only that I was too confused to realize it. Gradually, my colleagues were also touched by my change. They began to reflect on their own way of life, no longer focus on the pursuit of fame and fortune, but pay more attention to the feelings of their families. The company was filled with unprecedented warmth, and the performance also climbed in an efficient and orderly manner. One day, Yelena asked me to have dinner alone. I politely declined because it was Isadora's birthday, and I had already planned a surprise for her. The moment I hung up the phone, I suddenly realized that I hadn't been swayed by external temptations for a long time. My heart was filled with my wife and children. Where was there room for others? On my birthday, I took my family to Isadora's favorite restaurant. With the candles flickering, I took my wife's hand and slowly said, "My darling, thank you for all your love and understanding over the years. I know that I have let you down too much, but I swear that in the future, I will make up for it with all my love. Let's walk hand in hand through the rest of our lives and never leave each other." Isadora burst into tears and hugged me tightly. I knew that she had the same vow in her heart. Once, I thought that love is a romantic carnival, marriage is the rightful home. Now I understand that love needs to be managed with care, and marriage needs to be taken care of with wisdom. The only way to make the flower of happiness blossom undefeated is to keep correcting ourselves and giving each other space. Outside the window, the moon was shining in the sky, reflecting our happy faces. At that moment, I once again held my wife's hand. The heart welled up infinite gratitude. Originally, the true meaning of happiness, not in the long flow of water, but in the wind and rain together after the hands together. The years have gone by like a flash, and Isadora and I have been married for 15 years. Looking back at the beginning of the little by little, those quarrels, misunderstandings, doubts, as if it were a lifetime ago. After all the storms, we have already lost our youthfulness and have become more calm after a few moments of precipitation. Now, my son Kevin has entered middle school and my daughter Sophie has reached the age of choosing her own school. Watching them grow up is a source of great joy to me. Isadora and I are lucky not only to have found each other, but also to have given the best of ourselves to our children in the ordinary years. On weekend mornings, I get up early as usual to prepare a loving breakfast for my wife. After years of bonding, I know her tastes like the back of my hand. The milk should be slightly hot, the whole wheat toast should be slightly crispy, and the fruits should be cut into small pieces and drizzled with her favorite honey. As I watched Isadora enjoying my cooking with happiness in her eyes, I was grateful that it was her tolerance and wisdom that made us happy. Honey, do you remember our wedding vows? After the meal, Isadora snuggled into my arms with a touch of sweetness on her lips. I caressed her hair and said softly, "Remember, forever and ever, till death do us part." This sentence I will recite in my heart every day, reminding myself to cherish you, take care of our feelings. Isadora, red-faced, happily leaned on my shoulder. I did not expect that the man who did not care about his family back then has now become my most solid dependence. Thanks to your change, let me find the courage to love again. Fool, I'd like to thank you for your persistence. If it wasn't for your tolerance, I might still be out and about, not knowing how to repent. I smiled and planted a kiss on my wife's forehead. You are my angel, guiding me to find the meaning of life. In the days to come, I will double cherish, never let you down a piece of deep love. Isadora snuggled happily in my arms, and the warm sunlight from the window poured into the room, making the scene extremely cozy. I took my wife's hand and walked towards the neighborhood park. Seeing a pair of loving couples walking hand in hand and a group of innocent children playing, a warm feeling came over me. There was a time when I thought happiness was out of my reach, but I didn't realize that it was actually around me all the time. It was my confusion and selfishness that blinded me and almost missed it. Fortunately, in countless moments of love, in a well-cooked dinner, in gently wiping away each other's tears on the fingertips, I finally realized that the best thing in life is not to be successful and famous, but to have a soul mate to spend the rest of their lives together. Looking back on these 15 years of marriage, sweet and sour, sad and happy, the little by little into the heart of the most moving memories. Today, the reason why I want to share this story is that I hope to give those friends who are lost in marriage some inspiration. Love and marriage is never overnight. It requires two people with tolerance and wisdom to carve and polish. As long as you keep your heart and operate with humility and responsibility, there is nothing you can't overcome. Dear friends, if you are now in the quagmire of marriage, please do not give up easily. Try to think differently, to understand the needs of the partner. Try to reflect on themselves, take the initiative to take responsibility. Try to put down the face, with sincerity to resolve conflicts. As long as you take the first step, happiness will beckon to you in the near future. ISA, my beloved, every day of the future, we continue to work together, in the name of love, to perform the most moving music of life, okay? I gazed deeply at my wife and kissed her deeply on the lips the moment she nodded. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you have a story to share about your own or someone else's experience, please feel free to contact me. Take care.